I have a very fascinating interview for you all to hear. I have to give credit to Melhu's Skate Park on Twitter, who first linked me the interview. It is between Simon Kinberg and I forgot the other lady's name, but you'll hear her introduce herself. And in this interview, Simon Kinberg, I'm just going to give you my opinion of what's going on here. In my opinion, he is coming out to debunk the articles, the many articles that came out after the Dark Phoenix had a bad opening. I don't want to call it a flop, even though it probably is a flop. I just don't want to call it that because I like the movie, but and I wish it was doing better. But yeah, let's face it, it is a flop, and many articles came out following the Hollywood Reporter, which mentioned Jim Cameron possibly being responsible for Dark Phoenix being moved to June, and maybe they speculated that maybe it coming out in June being the reason for it having some a bad opening. But we all know that's a bunch of bullcrap, and so Kinberg steps up and he's like, you know what, it's on me. He takes the blame on himself, and which is an honorable thing to do. But I can also kind of feel like, well, maybe he is covering for Disney still, because when you look at the evidence, Disney it feels so, to me, it feels so obvious that Disney was behind the moving dates. Disney was behind the reshoots and other things. But he's going to take the blame on himself. And also, he does not mention Jim Cameron having anything to do with, you'll hear. I don't want to bury the lead too much, but let's just play this interview here.
This is The Business, and I'm Kim Masters. We're talking to Simon Kinberg, writer and producer of multiple X-Men movies, and writer, producer, director of the newest X-Men film, Dark Phoenix. This entry in the Marvel mutant franchise centers around Jean Grey, played by Sophie Turner. As she grapples with the powerful forces inside her, a mysterious alien, played by Jessica Chastain, turns up.
Who are you? The better question is, who are you? Are you a scared little girl who answers to a man in a chair? Or are you the most powerful creature on the planet?
Now that Disney has bought Fox, the X-Men will join their fellow Marvel superheroes in the house that Kevin Feige built. And Kinberg's duties on the series are essentially done. It would have been nice for Kinberg to have a hit with Dark Phoenix, which was his official directorial debut, but it was not to be. As he explained when he joined us in the studio, Dark Phoenix faced challenges almost from the beginning. You start shooting in June 2017.
Sounds about right.
You finish in October 17.
That's right.
Now you're in post, and you're like, the third act especially, I think, is not really happening.
That's right.
So you're like, we got to do some reshoots.
Right. Which I've done third act reshoots on half the movies I've worked on.
And you have that conversation, obviously, with Fox.
Mm-hmm.
You have a big famous cast.
Yes.
And you have to wait until October, like a year.
Yeah, that's right.
To get everybody together again.
That's right.
And meanwhile, I believe rumors begin that Disney is buying Fox.
Yes. Somewhere around there. I actually don't know when the rumors started. But
if I'm right, I think it's when you were initially in post-production and realizing that this...
Yeah, that
sounds right. And I wondered, actually, if that informed your thoughts. Like, not necessarily you specifically, right. Like the executives at Fox. The executives at Fox were in a weird space. And the cast of characters are like Stacey Snider was the chairman, Emma Watts was the co-chairman. I'm wondering if Stacey and Emma, who I'm not suggesting they were always on the same page with this, but Stacey Snider and Emma Watts, mindful of a problem with the film and mindful of the advent of a potential new boss, do you think that gets into their heads?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know what happened in their heads. Emma's someone that I'm very, very close to as a friend, and obviously as someone that I've been working with for whatever it is now, 15 years,
I should
16
say,
years.
Have made the transition to Disney while Stacey Snider has not.
And there's no question that all of those rumors, and then as those rumors became seemingly true, it's impossible if you're working at Fox to not be thinking about that. Fox is a very sort of familial company, meaning a lot of people, especially in senior executives, have been there for 15, 20 years.
Yes.
So
close-knit culture. And
very much. So I think there was cognizance of that, what was going on and how much of that was weighing on the minds of the people who were there, I can't begin to know.
I mean, what I have heard from other people besides you, nothing to do with your film, is that, people in marketing or just start looking for jobs or leaving or not come, it just becomes a real problem.
Well,
now I want to pause here to talk about what he just said and what they just said. Now he realized, as he said, when he was in post in around October 2017, that he needed to do reshoots. Now the story that was first floated out there was that they said that there was a test viewing, right? There was a test viewing, and the third act didn't really test well with the audience, according to the initial story. And some outlets even went as far as to try to debunk any rumors of the movie being reshot due to similarities with Captain Marvel. Now, of course, after that, then the non-show Marvel, just people who are doing honest investigation, have gotten clues together, like Ty Sheridan saying that originally Skrulls were in the movie. So that right there was changed. That the Skrulls were still in the movie, but they were called the Dabari. And they were the look of them would change a little bit, but they were still essentially the same thing. Now, this kind of reveals that there was dishonesty in what was initially reported when they said that it had nothing to do with similarities to Captain Marvel. So once people start figuring out, hey, the reshoots actually did have something to do with Captain Marvel, then the next thing they started floating out was, well, there was some similarity to Captain Marvel, but there was even more similarity to Captain America the Winter Soldier, and that's why we are redoing or reshooting the third act of the movie. But the problem with that is that had nothing to do with the test viewing, first of all. And number two, why would it take all the way for them to get the post for them to realize, you know what, our movie has similarities with Captain America Civil War. We don't want to do this when Civil War was a movie that came out freaking years ago, right? Why would you not know that before you even you wrote the movie out, you began shooting, and then when you're in post, you decide, oh, this is too similar to Captain America Civil War, we better not do it. Now, what I believe is really going on here is that in March 2018, Disney, I'm going to show you my tweets and some of the evidence that I found for my reasoning here. March 2018, Disney began reorganizing in anticipation of absorbing Fox in March 2018. A sign, there should be a sign there, they were sure the deal was done. This restructuring immediately went into action. The merger was made official in December 2018 and it was approved in March 2019. Now, I showed a few headlines. The New York Times reported that Fox began reorganizing. This is a sign that they knew this was going to happen. They knew this deal was going through. And I'll zoom in here a little bit if I can. Nope, I cannot. Alright, then I won't. But it says here, the Walt Disney Company unveiled a sweeping reorganization on Wednesday, promoting a pair of executives and preparing the entertainment conglomerate for the eventual integration of assets from 21st Century Fox. Let's read the next one. The reorganization, which involves a significant changes for every part of Disney except for the movie division, sets up a structure for Disney to absorb the Fox business. They include the Fox Movie and Television Studio, a large portion of Hulu, 22 regional cable, and so on and so on. So they knew in March 14th, 2018, that this deal was going to go through. Oh, here's another headline I forgot to show. Disney announces strategic reorganization effective immediately, March 14, 2018. Okay, so the next thing that I have here is I say that I don't think it's a stretch to suggest that Disney might have begun influencing Fox movies since it began preparing to absorb its assets. The following month, April 2018, it was revealed at CinemaCon that X-Men Dark Phoenix would be dropping X-Men from the title. So here's a headline from Bleeding Cool. CinemaCon, Dark Phoenix gets a new logo, drops X-Men from the title. Now how ironic or how coincidental is that in March 2018, Disney begins restructuring in preparation to absorb Fox. April 2018, Dark Phoenix drops X-Men from the title. Now, you can say that Disney was not able to do anything before the deal was officially was made official. However, look at the signs. Something was going on. Something was definitely happening with this movie. And so we have the movie being reshot. Okay, when Dark Phoenix opened low and outlets began running stories on it, Deadline attempted to debunk the rumor that Disney had any influence on the changes made to Dark Phoenix. Why would Disney not have any say considering they were already preparing for the future in March? Headline here from Deadline. Dark Phoenix bound to lose $100 million after the worst domestic opening in X-Men series. Here's why. Yeah, this is the X-Men movie, but they can't put X-Men on the title for some reason. So we heard in one cut Jean Grey dies, which wasn't well received, but overall the major ending change-up executed in reshoots entailed going from an intimate ending with Jean Grey, Sophie Turner, Ty Sheridan, Cyclops, and Charles Xavier, James McAvoy, against Jessica Chastain's Vought. The feeling from the audience in testing was that they wanted to see all the X-Men heroes fighting in the end. There have been reports out there, here we go, there have been reports out there that the ending was changed up because it was too similar to Captain Marvel. Now, Deadline is going to attempt to debunk this. No one on, it says this isn't true. No one on the Fox Dark Phoenix production side had any intel of what Captain Marvel would be like before it was released. It was the all-team reshoot that pushed Dark Phoenix from its original November 2nd release date, and went to February 14th. Now, that's going to be very important later on. So consider that this Deadline report attempted to debunk the rumor. They said themselves, I don't know how they would know this, but they said that nobody from Fox had any intel on what Captain Marvel would be like. I have a reason to believe that they may not necessarily be true, but I can't confirm it. It's just going to be my speculation here. But you'll see later on in this video why they may have had some information on what Captain Marvel was going to be like. So, Kinberg had a very strong passion and a set vision for this movie, and yet we're asked to believe he was willing to abandon what he originally dreamed of due to a poor test screening. He even said it would kill him to let someone else direct this movie, but he changed it. So he had a vision for this movie. Entertainment exclusive. See, X-Men fans have wanted for years. Simon Kinberg here. Simon Kinberg previously attempted to tell the iconic Jean Grey's tale about the telepath battle with demons in her own mind with this screenplay for 2006 X-Men: The Last Stand, but was his screenplay. But studio pressure squeezed her story into a reductive subplot. Kinberg, making his directorial debut, felt in his gut that this was the story he needed to tell once Bryan Singer, I need to make this bigger, this is just not going to work, that Bryan Singer, who directed the previous sequel, stepped aside. The film was so clear in my head, this is Kinberg talking, emotionally and visually, that it would have killed me to hand this to somebody else to direct. So Kinberg was so passionate and he had this vision in his head about this story he wanted it a certain way, and yet a test screening or similarities to Civil War or whatever made him change it. I don't think so. All right. So people began to deduce on their own that the changes that happened to Dark Phoenix, happened because of similarities to Captain Marvel. These suspicions are strengthened by the similarities present even after the reshoots. Mainstream outlets are very committed to debunking them because you have to protect this one right here. They're all very desperate to protect that movie. Let's see, is this one worth reading? I want to skip to. Yep. Okay. Let's read this. The recent release of Dark Phoenix came with it. The recent release of Dark Phoenix came with it stories about how the final third of the film was almost completely reshot. Writer-director Simon Kinberg had been speaking about how the change to the ending was to make it more grounded, a more grounded ending, as the original ending took place in outer space. However, James McAvoy took things in a different direction when he noted in an interview with Yahoo Movies UK, along with Michael Fassbender, that the end of Dark Phoenix changed a hell of a lot. The finale had to change. There was a lot of overlap and parallels with another superhero movie that came out, and he says a while ago, and we had no idea that we were, and it stops there. Now I'm just going to say something here. That now they're trying to claim that movie that it had similarities with was Civil War. But what year was Civil War released? Was that 2016? Was it 2017? I don't know. It was a while back. It was after this movie, so I find it hard to believe that they just realized that it has similarities with Captain America: Civil War, and that they had to change their movie. Why would they care anyway? Years later, Okay, unfortunately, I had a little bit of audio issues here. You might notice some noise on the mic sometimes. I'm just going to try to work through it. So what Michael Fassbender says here is really, really, really telling. He said they had spies on set, and skip it down a little. He says, and they basically stole our ideas. Now, what ideas did they steal? Moving on to the next part here. Since Captain Marvel's ending was in outer space and it also dealt with shape-shifting aliens, just like X-Men Dark Phoenix, many fans assumed that Captain Marvel was the film in question. The timing, though, never quite matched, since the Dark Phoenix reshoots occurred in the end of September 2018, when the only information anyone had about Captain Marvel was the trailer that was released in September 2018. Now, the trailer itself showed enough that you could believe that Kinberg might have wanted to change the look of Dark Phoenix to make her look different from the effects used in Captain Marvel, but otherwise it seems unlikely they would have been aware of the specifics. Now, you will see later on in here why I have very good reason to believe that there was some exchange of or some intermingling of ideas. The original Dark Phoenix ending involved the Skrulls in a big battle in New York. So, in an interview on the Real Blend podcast by Greek Geek Tyrant, Ty Sheridan revealed the details of the final battle of Dark Phoenix, which would have resulted in X-Men getting dissolved in the vein of Captain America: Civil War, and have taken place in New York at the United Nations. But here's the surprising twist. They would have found themselves battling the shape-shifting aliens who debuted in the MCU in this year's Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel, Sheridan said. So Dark Phoenix villain aliens were originally Skrulls. Dark Phoenix initially had Skrulls in a big New York City battle. Okay, let's keep going here. This is a tweet from this person, Vaughn. I am a film editor. Dark Phoenix was a lot shorter. I believe he said he saw the movie, the initial. He said he saw the original cut. Dark Phoenix was a lot shorter. He talked about the final product here. Than was initially shot and screened. I'd seen the picture twice in its post stage. I'd seen Simon Kinberg's original vision, which was the first test screening prior to reshoots, and I saw one after reshoots. Major length and story changes. Alright, here's the image down here. Now they may try to strike my channel. I hope they don't. But I just want to show you what this man saw at the test screening, and also what Captain Marvel ripped off. Alright, so you see Jean Grey here, right? Let's see if we can play this. You see how, I'm just gonna play the whole thing. Her head tilts forward, and her eyes open, and the power, you see the power in her eyes, right? Check it out. Here they go, with their ripoff. She looks up, and her eyes are glowing. It's the same thing, except in reverse. It's just it's the same thing, except in reverse. So yeah, they definitely knew. They definitely had some intel on what Dark Phoenix was doing. But let's continue with this interview, because there's a lot more to talk about.
There's no question that people were either getting fired or leaving.
Everybody knew Disney had its own staff and was going to have massive layoffs.
Yeah, I think the massive layoffs people were well aware of. And ultimately, especially toward the last 6 months or so, there were massive layoffs, like thousands and thousands of people. Right. And so, the marketing, distribution, and publicity side of Fox was very heavily hit. And I noticed it because obviously I was going to marketing meetings every week, and there were people who weren't there anymore.
Empty chairs.
Yeah, and there are people that I'd worked with for many years on many movies I've made. So,
all right. So if you want to know why the marketing for Dark Phoenix was so bad, you want to know why the marketing for Alita Battle Angel was so bad, there you go right there. You had people being laid off. And this was happening last year, not this year. Last year, way in advance. There were changes happening because of the merger. You can't tell me that Disney had no influence on Dark Phoenix. So you had people in marketing losing their jobs, and that basically set Alita Battle Angel and Dark Phoenix up for failure. Because you can hear so many people, you could talk to people and they'll be like, I never even knew Alita, I never even heard of Alita before. There you go right there. You had people losing their jobs in marketing. But of course they would like you to believe that Disney had nothing to do with all of this stuff. But Kinberg is admitting to it. He's saying, yeah, it happened.
But these were people that I had relationships with and people I cared a lot about. And I cared about them and their families, honestly, as much or more than I cared about a movie, because I have an immense amount of sympathy for someone who has been somewhere for 15, 20 years and all of a sudden is upended for a reason that has nothing to do with them.
What happens when a movie doesn't work, of course, is a little bit of finger-pointing palooza.
Right.
I don't know whether the Disney marketing people, there was a thought that they will come in and that big machine will sell the movie, but I don't know if it didn't happen at all or it just didn't take.
They're clearly the best in the world, Disney, at marketing movies. But I know that their process is usually they start from a year out of a movie's release. And in our case, they were given the film 2 months out from release.
They couldn't do anything until
the merger was finalized.
Which took forever, and I'm sure, a factor that...
Okay, so... he said they couldn't do anything. Disney couldn't do anything about marketing the movies until the merger was official. However, you had people losing their jobs. You had changes being made. You had Disney restructuring, Fox restructuring, but officially Disney could not market the movies. Disney could not do anything officially because of the deal wasn't official yet. So there's that.
At any time, people were like, when is D-Day? When is the Disney closes the deal day?
Yeah, it took a long time. And as a result, Disney didn't have a long time to integrate into the marketing and the publicity of the film. Listen, I think when a movie doesn't work, everybody points fingers at everybody else.
Absolutely.
When a movie works, everybody points fingers at themselves.
Right.
I'm neither of those guys. So I'm here and I'm saying when a movie doesn't work, put it on me. I'm the writer, director of the movie. The movie didn't connect with audiences. That's on me. And when a movie works, give it to Ryan Reynolds, give it to Ridley Scott, give it to whomever the audience came primarily to see, because it was not me. I'm, a part of the process.
So then there is an issue of release date now. So originally November 2018, obviously that's not going to be a thing anymore with the massive reshoots. There was a thought of February 2019, and there was a report in my publication, The Hollywood Reporter, that I didn't write, but that you guys wanted that date, and Jim Cameron wanted the date. But I am told that there was no way the movie was ready by that date. Is that fair?
It's hard to know. If we had accelerated certain things in the movie, perhaps we would have been ready by that date.
Now, did you notice how the woman giving the interview made sure that she let Simon Kinberg know that she had nothing to do with the article from The Hollywood Reporter? She works there, but she made sure to let him know that she didn't write it. And by distancing herself from this, she's basically saying that she doesn't even believe it herself. She doesn't believe the things that are reported either. And she made sure to say, her and Kinberg actually, that there was no certainty that Dark Phoenix was going to be in theaters by February 14th. Because, there's a question of is the movie even going to be done? Is it even going to be ready to be in the theater by then? So this whole thing about Alita pushing Dark Phoenix out of the February 14th date was a bunch of bullcrap, and she even pretty much admits that she knows that it's bullcrap in the questions that she's asking. So it really makes you wonder who these so-called insiders were that the Hollywood Reporter allegedly spoke to, or that they claim to have spoken to. And it just really shows you how bad it is when the other media outlets just take that and run with it, and nobody has any confirmation of it at all. But everybody ran with that story.
With all the reshoots, all the effects, all the prep that had to go into it?
The reshoots were not as extensive as all the reshoots. I mean, it's the kind of reshoots we've done on these movies before. But having said that, we weren't released in February, so it didn't really matter. I'm
obviously getting at would it
I
have
don't
made
know.
a difference. And is it fair to say it would have done better if it really wasn't going to be ready?
There's no way to know. And that's the thing that I think can drive people crazy. And
okay, according to him, and like I said, according to her as well, the movie wasn't even going to be done by February. So the Hollywood Reporter putting this bullcrap out that the movie got moved because of Jim Cameron's request, and that basically it's Alita's fault and Jim Cameron's fault, is bullcrap. Kinberg's like, we don't know. We might have been able to make the date. Basically what they ended up doing was just cutting out a bunch of the third act from what I'm finding out. The reshoots were not that extensive. It was merely changing the ending by cutting out so much of it. The movie was much longer in its original form. So they basically cut out some parts and just did a little some tidied up, did some reshoots to tidy it up, to tie things together, and that was it. It had nothing to do with Jim Cameron or Alita Battle Angel. The movie wasn't going to be ready by February. Dark Phoenix wasn't going to be ready by February.
Keep them up and be thinking about a movie's failure years later.
Right.
If the lesson you've learned is that you had the wrong date or you didn't have good marketing, that's not a lesson.
Right.
But I will say that I didn't make the movie as a summer movie. Like, I made the movie to be released in November. We couldn't make that date. And then the decision was made to not release it in February. And then it was put in the middle of the heat of summer. And it's not a movie that was made for summer. It was a movie that was made for a slightly more contemplative time in the marketplace.
It's one of those things where, as you say, things that open in February also have gotten clobbered, right?
For sure. That's why trying to learn the lessons or hypothesize about theoreticals is useless.
Was there ever any connection between you and Marvel folks? They're obviously going to have X-Men back now.
Right.
Did they ever say, do you want us to take a look at it?
No. Kevin Feige and I, when I started in the X-Men universe, Kevin was one of the producers of X-Men The Last Stand, and we've been friends ever since. And he'll email me when things go well. He'll email things when things don't. And I'll email him when things go well, which is pretty much all the time in his case.
Yeah, those would be the easy ones to write.
Those are easy to write.
See, this is why I believe that there's a very, very good chance that there was some intermingling of ideas here. There had to be some kind of talk about what they were working on, even though officially, of course, he's not going to admit to that because that would be before the merger was official, and that would technically be, I guess, breaking. I guess that would be illegal or something, right? So he wouldn't confess to that. He wouldn't admit that. But, you know, the opportunity is there. You got to admit that. The opportunity was there. And also, as Fassbender said, there were spies on set. Okay, so who knows who else might have been hanging around? Something to consider. They said they stole our ideas. Who is he talking about? There were spies on set. They stole our ideas. So there was definitely opportunity for Marvel to find out what was going on with Dark Phoenix and copy those ideas. And as you saw with the clip of Captain Marvel doing her little power-up thing, there was already a shot like that in Dark Phoenix that was cut out. So there was time, space, you had probable cause, you had opportunity, you know. So there was definitely a possibility.
And I saw him right before the merger closed, actually. We've never had a formal conversation about what the post-merger will look like for the Marvel movies at Disney, but I saw him right before it, and we talked about Aquaman and the Twilight Zone. We didn't talk about any of the Marvel stuff because he couldn't yet because the merger hadn't closed.
I mean, you've been through some hits and misses, but as we
Sure.
said in the beginning, this was the first one that you directed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it is a different experience as a director. Do people send you nice notes, or is there a silence?
They send nice notes. I mean, you know me a little bit and probably have gleaned this over the years. Like, I'm a decent guy, and I'm the guy that writes notes to other people when their films don't do well. And so in a moment like this, I get probably 75% as many emails as when the movies work. They're just harder emails to write. I don't
know how to do those.
They're hard.
What would you like to get as an email? What's your favorite one that you got?
My favorite one I got was from Tim Miller, actually,
who's the
director of Deadpool, who is probably
one, not two.
Yeah, who's probably the harshest on comic book adaptations. And I saw him at the premiere of the movie, and I was like, "Oh God, I wish you weren't here. Like, I'm so stressed out now. You're going to hate the movie." And he didn't hate the movie, and he just wrote, a feeling that in the test of time, people will come to see the movie differently, and out of the context of this particular moment, see things in it that they will appreciate and that he appreciated as a fan. And it just was a little bit more than the keep your chin up and you've had so many successes, it's okay to take a loss every now and then kind of emails. Those are easier to write. Those are a little more pro forma.
Are you at all relieved? Like, I'm done with the damn X-Men.
Well, I'm not relieved because I do love the characters. The process of making these movies has been very difficult. And so, I definitely feel like I'm excited to move into a space where it doesn't have a legacy of difficulty.
Okay, I guess I should end it there. That's about all the information that I have to share. I feel kind of bad for Kinberg because he really wanted to make really wanted to put his dream and his vision out there for the X-Men, and he got jobbed. And if you ask me, there's abundant evidence and proof that Disney was involved, that Disney drove the reshoots, and that they had their hands all in this thing. So, none of it had to do with Alita or James Cameron. It's not Alita's fault, but if you want to blame Alita for it, then just blame Alita for it anyway. Everything is Alita's fault, right? So that's the new meme. Everything is Alita's fault. That's what we got going on Twitter now. Thanks to Art Moreno. Yeah, Art Moreno. He basically just suggested that we should all just make a meme out of everything is Alita's fault, or just blame Alita. So that's what we'll be doing now. So anyway, thank you all for listening and thank you for watching.